In this recording, we're going to take a look at assignment number 3 for Intro to Mobile, and we're also going to look at how we can take a file location and turn that into an image and get information out of it with an ImageView, a BitmapFactory, and a bitmap. So first of all, assignment 3, as usual, the due dates of record are on Blackboard under the calendar. Okay, this assignment will assemble together a lot of things that we've already demonstrated and already talked about in this course. So it's just a matter of taking the ingredients and making something out of it. Okay, create an app that takes a photo, saves the photo, and shows a gallery of photos. We did that in week 3. Taking a photo, saving a photo, showing a gallery. We did that all, I want to say it was recording 7, 8, 9 where we did that. So, okay, that's pretty straightforward. The layout should have a title describing what it does, and it should have 2 buttons. One opens an image gallery using an implicit intent. Another should take a photo using the camera by invoking an implicit intent. Again, these are things that we did in week 3, so should be pretty straightforward. In the onActivity result method, you will be able to gather the location of the photo selected from the image gallery or the photo taken with the camera. So onActivity result, remember that's the method that gets called when we return from calling an activity. Okay, so I have one activity, I call another activity. When the second activity closes, it will go back to the first activity and invoke onActivity result. Okay, invoke the next activity. Okay, so once we get that onActivity result, we want to come down and invoke this second activity, which we'll describe in just a second. Invoke the next activity, the image information activity, via an implicit intent. And I stress here implicit intent because you've already had a programming assignment that did an explicit intent. So this one's an implicit intent, okay? The event will return a rating, which will be a number between 0 and 5. If the number is 4 or higher, show a toast that says, glad you liked it. So we're going to need a rating. We're also going to need a toast. Okay, should be pretty straightforward. Okay, now the second activity, the one that's going to get called from the first activity via an implicit intent. First of all, remember what implicit intent means. It means that we need to use an intent filter, okay, to invoke another activity. And I covered intent filters in a recording that I just finished. So depending on what order you see this, you might have already seen that recording or maybe not. But in any case, the recording is available for you to use. Okay. This should be invoked from the first activity with an implicit intent. So again, we're using an intent filter here. We're not explicitly saying what activity we want to call. So the implicit intent will need to be registered in the Android manifest with an intent filter and a category of default, just like I did on the other recording. It will also need to accept extra data, which will contain the file path of the image to interpret. This would be something like a bundle, which I also demonstrated on the last recording. Now, in the last recording, I had an activity from one application call an activity from another application. For this programming assignment, it's okay if you want to keep both activities in the same application. That's probably easier. But you will need to use an intent filter and an implicit intent. You will need to do that. Okay. So this should show a thumbnail of the image using an image view, which I'll show you in just a second. It should also show some details of the image, which you can get from the class called Bitmap. Each of these should be in a separate text view. Okay, so a separate text view or label, which shows the different attributes of the image that the user selected. And then finally a label that says, do you like this image, followed by a rating bar, and a button that will close this activity and return to the calling activity. It should return the data from the rating bar. Okay, so you'll need a bitmap and BitmapFactory to decode the bitmap from the file. The button that closes the activity should invoke a method called finish. Do something, and again, we've seen this in our onActivity results, so that should be nothing terribly new. Then choose something extra that you want to do. Choose something extra beyond what I've said to do here. Maybe call another activity if you want, call another implicit intent, something like that. And then finally complete the grade sheet below. So with the grade sheet, this is what I'm going to look at when I'm grading your project. So I would like you to grade yourself. If you did something completely, put a 10. If you did something less than complete, put less than 10. If you did not do something and you're honest about it, put a 5 out of 10, and then I will give you those 5 points for being honest. That's going to save me time grading. On the other hand, if you're dishonest, if you put 10 out of 10 and you did not do something, then I'll give you 0 points. So honesty pays. If you skip something or you don't do it or whatever, just go ahead and be honest and you'll get half credit still. So that is the assignment. Let's look at what we're going to need for this. Okay, so in our last recording, we called an implicit intent, but that relied on the Live Plant Places app, which is a big application which I have not posted on Blackboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment this out. Okay, and I'm sorry, where are we? We're in the plant search activity. So if I show you where we are here, let me see if I can navigate back in the emulator. Okay, we're on the plant search activity right here. We get to the plant search activity by, uh-oh, looks like it hit a breakpoint there. Hang on one second, I need to clean this up. Okay, and we'll turn off the breakpoint. This is from several recordings ago. Okay, and then play. Okay, so we got there by clicking Find Specimen. We're going to change this now so that instead of calling an implicit intent, which I created, I'm going to have it show the image in a little box, a little image viewer that we'll put here. So first of all, I need to change this layout. I'm going to go back to Eclipse, go to Java View, and we're going to look for, sorry, let me Control M. We need to look for the layout file. Okay, so make sure I'm in the right place. That's the live plant places. Let me go to the one that we're working with this semester. Okay, this is the one we're working with. On advanced search, what I need to do here is add an image view. Now, with this YCWig editor, what you see is what you get. It gets really crowded, so that's an important place to go in and hit Control M. And if I take a look, we have a relative layout. Okay, we have our text view, our autocomplete text, and then 2 labels. So I'm going to click on Images and Media. I'm going to find Image View, and we will put this, okay, align parent left true below button 2. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, so choose a drawable resource. Um, we don't really want anything, to be honest with you. Let me see if I can. Yeah, we'll just, let's see, did we get it there? Yeah, image view 1. Okay, we got it. Okay, this is one case where I am going to go ahead and stretch it out a little bit. Let's do align parent right true, because the trick is that we don't have any data in there right now. So it would show up to be very small. Let me see if it will let me drag and give it a, shoot, maybe not. Okay, well, we'll do our best. We'll leave it like that. I'm going to edit the ID, and we're going to change this to IMG, I mean, I want to call it IMG plant picture, but that's kind of obvious. That's okay. IMG plant picture, and okay, and we'll let it go ahead and rename. If we take a look now, what I can WYSIWYG editor to the XML editor, like so. So that will show me the XML that was generated under the covers. What we'll see is that it's a well-formed XML file. Let me go ahead and save this. First of all, we have a little informational tag up here, which just says what it is. Then we have what's called, okay, let me disconnect the debugger. then we have what's called a root element. When you look at XML, you'll see these tags. So a tag will start with a less than and then end with a greater than. If you don't see a slash here or here by the less than or greater than, it means it's the first half of a tag set of an entire element. And the second half is right here. This is what we would call a close. So a root element is the element that starts and ends an XML file. A properly formed XML file must have exactly one and only one root element. So an open tag with no slashes, and then a close tag with a slash at the beginning. That basically is the root element. All other elements are nested inside of that. So within the scroll view, we have a relative layout, and again, we'll see because there is no slash at the beginning or the end, that means there has to be a closed relative layout tag, and sure enough, we see it towards the bottom. All of the other elements that we'll see, a lot of them at least, will have a slash at the end. And what that means is that's the complete element. There's not an open or a close. This is what we would call a singleton tag or maybe a self-closing tag. So like text view here, it means there is no open and close. It's just one tag. Okay, and the slash basically indicates that it's closing at the end of that tag. So again, three different types of XML elements: an open, a close, or what you could call a self-closing tag or a singleton tag. We have the element and then it simply closes itself here. So what was created in all of that? Well, it created this image view and it put this @ID. What that means is that is a sign to the Android development kit that it needs to generate a unique identifier for this component in the file called r.java. And that will allow us to access this component from our code, from our activity. Okay, so the @+, that means it will generate a unique identifier for this in r.java, and we can use it later. Now, after that, we have a few things that basically just describe where this image view lives within this layout. Okay, so align parent left and align parent right is both true, which means it just stretches from left to right. Okay, so that's what we have in a layout. Now you notice IMG plant picture. Remember how I renamed this IMG plant picture? That's typically a good idea to name it something useful because we're going to be programming against this. And we want to have a name that is a name we will remember. So IMG plant picture, that's a name we can remember over just image view 2. You know, that's kind of a self-describing name. Okay, and we also see that it is a component of type image view. So let's remember that as well. Let's remember two things. Its name is IMG plant picture, and it is a component of type image view. Those two things we're going to need to know. I hold down Control and press M, and I'm going to go back now to the plant search activity, which is the corresponding screen, the corresponding file that we program to access that layout. And we see that we're capturing the layout here. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to issue a find view by ID. And we remember that the @+ means it's going to put kind of a reference to that image view in a file called r.java. So find view by ID, I can type the whole thing out, or I can just hold down the control key and hit space. Okay, and if I hold down the control key and hit space, it will autocomplete for me. And then I just need to say r.id boom, IMG plant picture. There we go. So this is a reference to the reference that was created of that image view. Okay, so put a semicolon. Now, why am I getting this here? The reason I'm getting this here is I want a reference to that image view so that I can take an image and put it into the image view. So I want to save this. I want to save this reference to this image view into a variable. Find view by ID will give me a reference to the actual image view. And once I have that image view, I can put a bitmap inside of it. Okay. What I need to do though is I need to take what view by ID returns to me, and I need to put that into a variable. Luckily, Eclipse makes this easy. With my cursor on line 34, I can hold down Control and press 1, and that's where I'm asking Eclipse to help me. Eclipse sees where my cursor is, and it says, you know what? You are on a method call, and that method call is going to return some information. Would you like to store that in a new local variable or in a new field? It's thinking these are the two things that I probably want to do if I'm making a method call. And it's correct. Those are the things I would like to do. What's the difference between a local variable and a field? A local variable means I can only access that variable within this method. A field means I can access it within multiple methods. Now recall that a button click is going to call a special method. It's probably likely that I'm going to want to access this image view in different methods, so I'm going to say field. Remember, field, I can access it in any method within this class. Local variable, I can only access it within the method it's currently in. So let's say field. Okay. The only trick is it gives it a goofy name, find view by ID. Let's go ahead and call it IMG plant picture. We don't have to. It doesn't have to be the same name, but to me it's a bit more self-documenting if it is. I hit tab, private, that's fine. Now for a view, do you remember when we were looking at that XML that it was actually called an image view, not a view? It was called an image view. That's what needs to go here. So I'm going to say image view like so. So remember, image view here, see that here? When we go to the layout, remember that XML element I was telling you about, image view? So those two have to be the same. Image view here and the variable type here. Both of those need to be the same. Okay? I'm happy with what I have, so I'm going to hit enter, which says, okay, we're good. Now we notice that we have a red line. We have a red line that says image view cannot be resolved to a type. When you see that, think Control Shift O. Okay, Control Shift O automatically organizes imports. Now the next problem is we have a red line here, and this red line says type mismatch. Find view by ID doesn't know it's returning an image view, so we have to tell it that it is. We do that just as we did on line 33 by adding a cast. So open paren, image view, close paren, like so, and save. And at this point, we're in good shape and we're compiling. Okay, so we always want to be in a position where we are compiling, and we save. Okay, so I scroll down now, and the next thing that I need to do is in this onActivity result, as I said, I'm going to comment out the implicit intent that we were calling, and I'm going to say open the image as a bitmap, put it into the image view. Okay, first, there's something called a BitmapFactory. The BitmapFactory has several methods that begin with decode. There's decode file, decode resource, decode stream. What we have is a URI, and somehow we have to change that to a file, resource, or a stream. Probably the easiest way to do it is to say get content resolver, and then open input stream, because that will take a URI like the picture path we've specified above. So let me put some comments to explain what we're doing. Convert a URI to a stream. Okay, now that's going to return to us a stream. We want to save that into a variable, and we know the secret for that. If we're calling a method that is going to return data, hold down Control and press 1, and in this case we only need it temporarily, so a local variable will be just fine. So input stream, picture input stream, whatever you want to call it. Boom. That's good. Okay. By the way, I notice I no longer need, while I'm looking here, I see I no longer need these lines because they are implicit intent. So, in any case, we have this picture input stream, and now what I can do on the BitmapFactory is called decode. Whoops, sorry, went too far, didn't I? Decode stream. Okay, and that will take our picture input stream, as we have here, and return to us a bitmap object. Now we know this is going to return a value, and one of the things that we want to do when we're returning a value is control 1, assign to new local variable. Okay, I will call this, instead of decode stream, I'll call it plant picture. That's fine. And save. Now, by the way, I notice up above, okay, let me disconnect the debugger. I notice I'm getting a red line here. Unhandled type exception. What it's saying is, because I'm accessing a live resource, something could go wrong. So I need to decide how to handle that. I'm going to go ahead and say surround with try catch, but what's important then is everything else I do at this point I need to put between the try and the catch. Okay, so I'm going to assume you don't know what exception handling is because you're newer to programming. People who are in the degree program will know this a little bit better. But basically, if we get prompted like that, let's go ahead and do a try catch. And then everything that is dependent on this line here needs to be after that line but before the catch. So that's a quick explanation for something that's a kind of a tricky programming concept. But for simplicity, let's leave it at that. Basically, if something went wrong, what we could do is we could handle it down here in the catch block. Okay, so let me put some more comments. I'll say access. Well, okay, we have that comment above. Yeah, that's fine. Convert the URI to a stream. That's adequate. We'll go ahead and leave it at that. Okay, now that we have the bitmap, we can show the bitmap through our image view. Okay, so remember that image view that we accessed up above? That IMG plant picture? I can come down here now and say IMG plant picture dot set image bitmap. That's what I'm looking for, set image bitmap. Pass in the picture, and we're all good. Now, why do I have to do that? This bitmap here, okay, this bitmap here is a representation of the image in memory. But we can't actually see the image until we associate it to a view that has the user interface. And that's what IMG Plant Picture is doing. That's the view with the user interface that we can use to show a bitmap. Now, I'm going to save. Okay, and what I'm going to do now, I'm going to save and launch. Well, I'll launch in just a second. Let me first show our assignment. It says the activity will need to show details of the image. You can get all of this from class Bitmap. Each of these should be in a separate text view. Width, height, size, file location. Okay, do you see how we have this plant picture now? And the plant picture is a variable of type bitmap. If I say plant picture dot get width, there's get width. Get height, there's height. Describe contents. We have all kinds of information that we can get here. Okay. So the things that you need to show for the programming assignment are all available to you once you take a URI, convert it into a stream, take that stream, give it to a bitmap factory, take that bitmap factory and get a bitmap out of it. Once you have that, you have all the ingredients that you're going to need to complete the programming assignment. That part of the assignment where you have to show the details of the image, the width, height, size and bytes, and file location. So you can get most of those from the bitmap. The other things like the file location, you can pretty easily get that from the URI. But really what I want to show you here is what we're doing here is exactly what you're going to need to complete the assignment number 3. So given that, I'm going to save what I have. Okay, I'm going to Control M, and then once this comes up, I am going to right click and tell it to debug on the device. And we'll give it just a moment for this to come up. Okay, the debugger, the emulator is up, and I've also set a breakpoint on this onActivityResult method. I stress for everybody of every experience level, learning the debugger will save you a lot of time in this class. So I'm going to choose Find Specimen, and we'll give it a moment, and then it's going to bring up our activity, our little search activity. What I'm going to do now is hit Select an Image, and that will bring up our gallery view. Okay, and now when I click this image, what it's going to do is it's going to take us into the debugger where we can step one at a time and watch this execute one line at a time. Okay, and then when that's finished, we should see the image in that image view on the screen. So let me click. We'll see the little red acknowledgement that I've clicked, hopefully. Might have to coax it a little bit more. There we go. Okay, as soon as I do that, my debugger lights up on line 74, and right now it's going to let me walk through this one line at a time. If you're writing a program and you find that it is not doing a good job of, it's not doing what you want, seriously consider the debugger. Seriously consider looking at the debugger. So I step one line at a time. First of all, get the picture path. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look up here in variables, and let's see, we need a picture path, so I click on that. I'll move this over so we can see it a bit better. And this shows us a path to the image. So we know we're able to get that successfully. Okay, convert to an input stream, and then get a picture. Okay, so I scroll down, and plant picture, we see that we have a bitmap here. Probably a lot of this won't make sense, but we at least have data. Finally, take that picture, set it in the image view. At this point, I'll hit resume, the little play button with the F8, and let's watch what happens. And there we go. Sure enough, it's able to pick out this picture and show it right here in our image view. Not bad at all. So that's the process of converting a URI to a stream to a BitmapFactory to a bitmap, and then taking that bitmap, getting information out of it if we wish, or simply showing it on a screen. Once again, what did we do? Let me do a quick review. Okay. We started with onActivityResult, and that's important because remember, that's the method that gets called when we come back from an activity that we've called with startActivity4result. And in this case, what we did is we called a gallery view, okay? That has called us back. It's given us a URI, Universal Resource Identifier, which points to an image. We took that URI, we opened a stream to that URI, and then we decoded that stream from a BitmapFactory to a bitmap object, and then we passed that bitmap object to our image view. To get our image view, in the onCreate method, we had to refer to this constant which was created when we added the image view to our layout. Then we had to pass that constant to find view by ID. We had to cast it to tell it we're getting an image view out of it. And we store that into the field or attribute called IMGPlantPicture. Because that's a field or an attribute, depending on what you want to call it, it's actually declared here outside of a method and initialized here inside of a method. But because it's declared outside of a method, that means we can access it from any method in our class, including the one right here. You notice that IMGPlantPicture is blue text. That means it is a field or an attribute, which means it can be accessed by any method of this class. The other variables that we have are black. That indicates that it's a local variable, which is only visible within this method. So that's a wrap up of converting, getting a gallery, getting a URI out of that gallery, getting a stream from that URI, passing the stream in Factory to get a bitmap, and then passing the bitmap finally into the image view. In our next lecture, we're going to take a look at services in the Android lifecycle. Thank you.